All right, this screencast is going to be for topographic map help. So learning how to read topographic maps. All right, you've got a worksheet that has a topographic map on it. And one of the first things that I want you to look at is down at the bottom of the map. You need to notice what the contour interval of the map is. In this case, the contour interval is 10 feet. Your contour interval is not always going to be 10 feet. It could be something different depending on the map and what it is illustrating. But for this particular map, it's 10 feet. What that means is that as you go from one contour line to another, your elevation is changing by 10 feet. Okay, so for instance, this contour line happens to be marked because it's an index contour line. So the elevation all along this line is 500 feet, this dark line. I have another index contour line up here marked as 550. So if I go from 500 to 550, first of all, I know I'm going to be walking uphill. And since my contour interval is 10 feet, I start at 500 here. This would be 510, 520, 530, 540, 550. This small inside circle would be 560. If I was going to go downhill, this would be 560, 550, 540, 530, 520, 510, 500, 490. And it's not 490 just here. Remember, these contour lines, it's 490 the whole time on this one contour line. Okay? So 490, 480, 470. And be careful here. This is not 460. This is just the shore of the lake. And I know that the shore of the lake is less than 470 because that's the last contour line I crossed. But it's more than 460 because I haven't crossed a 460 contour line. Okay? So I know the lake's elevation is somewhere between 460 and 470 feet. Okay? All right, the next thing that I want to show you on the on the topographic map is how to figure out what your rivers and streams are doing. Okay, so let's look at Maple Stream first, right here. You notice that as you cross the stream, the contour lines sort of kink, okay, and they all kind of kink or point in the same direction. Okay, so if I kind of take those kinks and make them the heads of arrows, I get some arrows that point upstream in this case. Okay, so upstream is this way up here. Okay, and we're going to make sure we mark that so we know what we're talking about. All right, so I put upstream or uphill. Your contour lines, again, like I said, they kind of kink and point uphill or upstream. So up here, that's uphill, and downhill is this way. So the river is going to be coming from high to low. The stream is going to be flowing this way, okay? Because it has to flow from uphill to downhill. Okay, which brings me to the first question that you have. On number 51, it says, state the general compass direction in which Maple Stream is flowing. Well, remember that unless they tell you differently, north usually is going to be indicated as straight up towards the top of the paper, which means south would be down, east is to the right, and west is to your left. If the stream is flowing this direction, okay, that's not really west and it's not really south. It's sort of between the two. So we're going to say that the stream is flowing southwest. Okay, so state the general compass direction in which Maple Stream is flowing. We said it was flowing southwest. And just a reminder, you've got to remember that water must flow from high elevation to low elevation, meaning that your water must flow downhill. Okay, so the next thing I want you guys to do is we're going to start looking at the points that have been marked on the map, and we're going to figure out the elevation of those points. But I'm also going to add point C and point D as a couple of extras, and we'll label and figure out those elevations as well. Okay, we're going to start figuring up what the elevations of the marked points are. And let me just remind you, if you have a point that is sitting on a contour line, then you're going to be able to tell me exactly what the elevation is. If you have a if you have a point that's not sitting on a contour line, then you can only estimate because you've got to use the contour lines that it's sitting between to sort of estimate what its elevation is. But let's start with A. A is right here, and A is sitting on a contour line, so I can give an exact elevation for A. I'm probably going to need to use my index contour lines to start from. I know that going this way, because this is a hill, I know that going this way is going to be uphill. So this is 500. Remember, my contour interval is 10 feet. So every time I get to a new contour interval, I've added 10 feet. This one's 500. This one would be 510. And this one is 520. And that is the contour line that A is on. So I'm going to write 520 feet. Okay. Again, I can tell you exactly the elevation because it's on a contour line. Point B is right here. Point B is also on a contour line, so I can state its exact elevation. And it's on an index contour line, so this one's real easy. So B, the elevation is 550 feet. All right, C is one of the points that I added. And point C is not on a contour line, so I won't be able to tell you exactly what the elevation is, just an estimate. Okay? I know that this is 500, and I know that going this way is uphill, so going this way from 500 has to be downhill. This one's 500. This next contour line has to be 490. So point C is going to be between 490 and 500. But I can't tell you exactly what it is because it's not sitting on a line. Point D, you have a similar situation. It is not on a contour line. 500, 510, 520, 530, 540, 550, and the small circle is 560. D sits inside the small circle, so I know that D is more than 560, but I know it's less than 570 because there is no 570 contour line. So I can say it's between 560 and 570. Now sometimes they will mark the high point of a hill like they did over here, but sometimes they don't. They didn't mark the high point of Holland Hill, and they didn't mark the high point of Girard Hill either, okay? So really you can only estimate what D is. You can tell me it's something between 560 and 570. All right, now let's find point Y. Point Y is on this contour line, and if you follow it all the way around, you can see that it is one contour line less than the 500. So if this one's 500, then the line that Y sits on is 490. And I know that Y is at exactly 490 because Y is on the contour line. Z is right here. Here's 500. This next one, all the way around, this one's 510. This one's 520. This one would be 530. Okay, but Z is on the line that's marking 520. 520 feet. Okay. Real quickly, just for a little bit of an additional practice, let's look at our creek right here. Notice that there are kinks in the contour lines, just like there were on Maple Stream, and those kinks are going to point you uphill. Okay, so uphill or upstream has to be up here.